Hello everyone, nice to meet you all. My name is Titin Fatimah, I'm from Indonesia. And I'm a lecturer and researcher at Department of Architecture and Planning, Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Tarumanegara, Jakarta. My research interest is about cultural landscape, heritage conservation, and community-based development. And in the last 2 years, I have conducted research about cultural mapping in Giritengah village. It is near the Borobudur World Heritage Site in Central Java Province. And currently, I'm involved in heritage conservation activities with Indonesian Heritage Trust, or we call Badan Pelestarian Pusaka Indonesia, and also assigned as the coordinator of a cultural landscape working group at the Indonesian Built Environment Researchers Association. Today, I would like to talk about cultural mapping. Generally speaking, I can say that cultural mapping is an attempt to collecting, analyzing, and then representing cultural resources in a certain community or area or built environment. And recently, cultural mapping is getting widespread recognition as an important tool for cultural heritage management and for enhancing public participation and appropriation of heritage. So, why is cultural mapping important? Here, cultural mapping takes an important role as an initial step of a cultural-based planning. And in this class, I would like to start with a definition about cultural mapping so that we have understanding about what is cultural mapping and its scope. And then I will show the positioning of cultural mapping in the whole step of cultural planning, following with the use of cultural mapping and the procedural step should be carried out in conducting a cultural mapping. And at the end, I would like to share the experience of cultural mapping activities from Kotatua, Jakarta, and Giritengah Village in Borobudur, Indonesia. Okay, let's start with the definition of cultural mapping. There are so many definitions, but here I put only 4. First, from UNESCO. UNESCO mentions that cultural mapping is a crucial tool and technique in preserving the world's intangible and tangible cultural assets. It has variety of techniques from the community-based participatory until the sophisticated mapping using the technology such as GIS. The second, Cook and Taylor use cultural mapping to describe the set of activities and processes for exploring, discovering, documenting, examining, analyzing, interpreting, presenting, and sharing information related to people, communities, societies, places, and the materials, product, and practices associated with those people and places. Third, Duxbury pointed out that cultural mapping is a systematic tool to involve communities in the identification and recording of local cultural assets, with the implication that this knowledge will then be used to inform collective strategies, planning processes, and other initiatives. The fourth, Janet Pillai said that cultural mapping is a systematic approach to identifying, recording, presenting, and assessing the social, economy, and environmental assets of a place that must be holistic, multidisciplinary, and multimodal. So from this definition, we can highlight several keywords that it's important for cultural mapping, like exploring, discovering, identifying, documenting, examining or assessing, analyzing, interpreting, presenting, and sharing information. It is very important for cultural planning. As we know, cultural mapping is a culturally sensitive approach in rural or urban development. The main goal is to study sense of place and discover what makes the place distinctive. The starting point of the process is to study the experiences and visions of local inhabitants and other public stakeholders regarding the area and its resources. Cultural mapping is the central part of a process that aims to increase the welfare and attractiveness of a certain area by utilizing the existing cultural resources. Let's see the diagram of a scaffolded approach to cultural planning. Basically, a planning process can be divided into two phases. The first phase, it is about the understanding the site, and then the second phase is making the integrated planning. Cultural mapping's position in this diagram is in the first phase, yes, second step after the engagement or communicate with the local community and stakeholders. We should conduct identification and mapping of cultural element and cultural ecology. Therefore, we can say that cultural mapping is a quite fundamental step which takes important role in developing a planning. As mentioned before, cultural mapping should make comprehensive identification of cultural resources in the appointed area. This diagram shows the element of cultural resources. It consists of community cultural organizations, spaces and facilities, cultural heritage, natural heritage, festival and events, and creative cultural industries. Actually, it is still possible to modify this according to the local context and the needs in the field. Cultural mapping as a systematic tool can be utilized for several objectives. We can make it as a comprehensive documentation of the local cultural resources. Then we analyze to see what is the significance to find the local cultural identity. It is important for promoting and raising the awareness of local inhabitants and the stakeholders so that they know, understand about what they have in their environment, both tangible and intangible ones. This understanding can be utilized for local resource management, then the next step for cultural planning, and finally, for sustainable development planning. To achieve sustainable development planning, we need to adopt the sustainability model, which includes three aspects, namely social, economic, and environmental. It is important to be included in the cultural mapping process to provide a holistic and contextual planning solution. The cultural mapping procedure consists of three main stages. Those are framing of mapping experience, and then process of mapping, and the last one is evaluation. Framing of mapping exercise consists of several steps to obtain mapping brief, and then inspect and profile the site, engage with the stakeholders, establish goals and objectives in order to determine the scale and scope of mapping, and then approach and tools of techniques, and then data management and partners. And the last one, to determine the scale and the time frame, and also cost and the output. The second stage, the process of mapping, including data recording and synthesis. The last one, evaluation or assessment, is to determine the significance of cultural vitality and analysis of people, place, and also the environment. Well, to understand on how cultural mapping is implemented, I would like to show you case studies on cultural mapping in a heritage area. I took two cases that represent from urban area and also from a rural area. The first case is cultural mapping that conducted in the heritage area of Kotatua, Jakarta. It's conducted around 2015 and then until 2016. This project was coordinated by Urban Lab from Universitas Tarumanagara and also in collaboration with the Universitas Indonesia, supported by UNESCO Jakarta. And then the second case is cultural mapping in Giri Tengah village. It is one village amongst the 20 villages around the Borobudur World Heritage Site in Central Java province. And it was conducted in 2018 until 2019 and funded by Ministry of Research and Technology and Higher Education. Okay, here's the first case. This is a mapping project with a vision to integrate the analysis of the geographies, histories, and heritages with the social and cultural life in the former colonial town. This project utilizes mapping as a visual information tools to represent the network and relationship of community livelihoods and the urban economy with the intention of utilizing both the map and the mapping exercise as community empowerment platforms as they continue to find ways to synergize daily activities with the histories and heritages in the midst urban development pressures. Based on Jakarta Governor Decree on Kotatua District, it is divided into inner and outer zones. This mapping focuses communities in outer zones with their distinctive characteristics such as Chinese communities Beta 9, and then Pekojan, the historical Arabian quarters, Kampung Luar Batang for Betawi and migrants, and then the Tembok Tua, or we call Old City Wall, which consists of Kampung Tongkol, Dalam, Krapu, and Lundan. Besides, we also make mapping of the core zone, so we can examine the social, economic, and cultural relationship that define the existence of the neighborhood within Kotatua, the relationships with the inner zone, and then within Jakarta as a whole. This project relies on community mapping approach through with social, economic, and cultural experiences that are specially projected on the map. So, the map doesn't only represent standard information such as population, general demography, problems and challenges, potential and existing facilities, but also spatially represents memories, narratives, and any other information that communities find meaningful to their shared identity. We facilitate mappers who mobilize per neighborhood to walk into Kotatua settlement area and then collect information through direct observation, interviews with the representatives of the community in the form of documenting their oral story and aspirations to the future. And then we also conducted a simple survey designed to capture community socio-economic profile quantitatively. Then we facilitate a focus group discussion with the community members of the same local district representative to identify problems and also the potential together, as well as we also conduct a focus group discussion of 5 designated areas. In the final report that entitled as a vernacular city Kotatua, cultural identity in every urban heritage, we present the cultural mapping result of each location, including history, and then physical characteristics, social characteristics, and group relationship between physical space and activities, problem and challenges, and also recommendation. We also provided Kotatua Residence Employment Map, Kotatua Cultural Activities Map, Kotatua Significant Building Map, and also Kotatua Culinary Map. The next case study more focuses on rural areas situated around the Borobudur World Heritage Site. We focus on Kiri Tengah Village as the pilot project, and hopefully next mapping will cover all the 20 villages in Borobudur sub-district. Actually, in 2014, UNESCO Jakarta had already conducted a cultural mapping in those 20 villages, but it more focused on the art and craft potential mapping, not yet deeply integrated with the social, cultural, and economic aspect. So in this case, we focus on village as a pilot project, but we try to deep mapping in Kiri Tengah Village. Kiri Tengah Village geographically is located in a hilly area. That's why it has many hills which provide beautiful sceneries of Borobudur cultural landscape. But actually, not only the natural potentials, this village has also good potential on art, tradition, culture, and etc. We, the mapping team from Universitas Tarumanagara, firstly made the base map because there is no adequate map to use. We trace from Google Map, then utilize the base map to put some valuable information we get from the field observation as well as from the interview with the local people. And we also organize several focus group discussion to get more information as well as to cross-check the content of the map in progress. We also use Google Map to help us pinpointing of each location of the place. And here is the example of tourism map that we plot into leaflet and booklet containing the information of village potential such as nature, history, culture, local culinary, home industry, as well as tourism facilities in Giri Tengah village. And we put the narrative of each village potentials in a form of a booklet for long descriptions and in a form of a leaflet for the shorter explanation. All those village potentials that have been mapped that can be utilized for further village development planning. Therefore, we also facilitate the village people to have a workshop to prepare the village tourism development plan using the identification results from the cultural mapping project. Well, we are reaching the end of this class, so let me make a short summary about what we have been talking about. Cultural mapping is important to explore and identify the local cultural resources in multidisciplinary perspective. Through the identification at the first step and then the analysis step, we can find the local identity that is necessary as a foundation of every policy that will be made. The result of cultural mapping synthesis can be utilized for supporting the further holistic planning that hopefully through community participation process, it can accommodate the social, cultural, and economic aspects proportionally for sustainable approach. Yeah, I think that's all from me. I would like to say thank you to ICOMOS Malaysia for this opportunity to share about cultural mapping and experience from Indonesian case study. Thank you.